How's it going, everyone? We are here for some Week 5 FanDuel Optimal lineups where we take a look at some of the best plays of the week in both cash tournaments and sort of just general roster construction. So Jason did this article for us. As always, if you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out the article on the site, dailyfantasycafe.com. How's it going, Jason?
Doing good. I like what we kind of spit out here this week. I mean, in terms of wide receivers and running backs, I think I'm pretty much on most of these guys.
Well, personally, I think spitting is rude, but I mean, I guess you're an outlaw. Do you have a spittoon at least, or are you just spitting on the ground?
Just on the ground, no,
Oh, like on the floor, like the inside? Like, have you ever seen like someone spit on the floor inside? It's one of the wildest things.
no.
Like you're in like a restaurant.
I don't know what group of people you're hanging out with, but no, I've
Oh,
never seen that. Where are you at? I mean,
I don't want to talk about it, but maybe I've been through some stuff, you know?
I
You know what I'm
I would
saying?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I went to like some buffet and yeah, I don't know. Whatever. All right. Anyway, before I jog my memory, let's get into the cash and GPP projections. For the cash lineup, you had Aaron Rodgers, Jerick McKinnon, Melvin Gordon, Jordan Matthews, Antonio Brown, Cole Beasley, Kyle Rudolph at tight end, Blair Walsh and Minnesota Vikings in a little stack there with Rudolph and McKinnon. So 4 players from the Vikings. Uh, Thinking about this lineup, and I'm guessing you are drawing the similar conclusions that I did.
I would assume so. Depends on what those are.
Well, this is one of those show yours first. Show
All
your
right.
cards.
I mean, overall, I think one, you can't go wrong with Aaron Rodgers this week in a home matchup against the Giants. Obviously, Antonio Brown against the Jets. I mean, their defense has just been horrendous to start the year. Obviously, those are the two bigger pieces that kind of they focused around, which I'm okay with. I love this running back duo. I think Melvin Gordon, Jerick McKinnon's a pretty intriguing option in cash games. Pretty reasonably priced when you pair the two of them up. I know it's not DeMarco Murray. I know it's not Le'Veon Bell, but for a little bit less, I think you're saving some cash. And in 2+ matchups, I think Houston's a little bit overrated in terms of what you're looking at in terms of matchup numbers. But I like those two quite a bit. I think the only thing where I draw my line at is Cole Beasley this week. I'm not really looking to use him. I think there's plenty of other options. I like Eddie Royal if he gives it a go for 200 more. I like Robert Woods. I like Sammy Coates as well. So I think those are the 3 that I'd rather pivot off of Beasley with. And obviously Blair Walsh. If I'm rostering 2 guys, I think it's just the way our optimal lineups work. It's just it takes the most optimal kicker, which is why it gives you that. But I would just probably make a pivot to someone else too.
Yeah, check out Denny Carter's kicker article if you're looking for some kickers. There's some good ones this week. Kyle Rudolph missing some practices. If he does play, I'm cool with it. But I mean, with some of the other guys in his same price range, I think maybe we're looking at something a little different there. And yeah, as you mentioned, so guys like Cole Beasley, Eddie Royal, and Adam Humphries, like matchups don't necessarily scare me away. I just think there's better that range. So I'm not afraid of the Bengals in terms of shutting him down. I think he's going to get his targets either way. I just think in terms of, as you mentioned, Sammy Coates, Robert Woods in that same range, I just don't feel the need to do that, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a matchup thing. It's just more maybe my personal rankings that overtake it.
Right. And as far as Rodgers, I think we're looking to stack him with Jordy here, right?
I like that pairing quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like I'm going to go Rodgers with Jordy, or I'm going to get my Rodgers exposure through Jordy, which that doesn't
Right.
happen, but it certainly can. And as you mentioned with Rudolph, I think the easiest pivot is just go to Zach Miller at the same price.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think that's generally the vibe here. Cool with McKinnon and Gordon as well. For GPP, it threw out Ben Roethlisberger, which I like. Threw out Emmanuel Sanders, which is fun. Same kicker defense, same tight end. I mean, we're looking at those 4 Vikings again. So I do like the Vikings defense, and our optimizer's been spitting out some like I know defense seems like a non-important position, but let me tell you what. When 2 weeks ago, when it was spitting out the Chiefs and I went against it, I'll tell you what. That's not fun for me to look back on. It's been pretty dead on with the defenses throughout. So I think we're trusting the Vikings here, right?
Yeah, I definitely am. I mean, under 5K. I mean, I was really expecting them to be up, 53, 5,400, but that's a solid price for them.
Mm. And so the Ben Roethlisberger Antonio Brown combo, I love. I'm not worried about paying up for Antonio Brown, especially in a tournament. We saw last year, receiving yard performances on the reg with this combination. So is that what you're looking at too?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to like them in a GPP. I think the only thing that I don't like here, but I think it's just the way it's constructed, it had to be done, is the running back pairing. I'm not fond of the upside there with Gore and McKinnon. I think that puts a lot of pressure on everyone else really hitting. Do McKinnon and Gore have, some touchdown upside? Sure. I think McKinnon has a little bit higher of a ceiling than Gore. I know Gore's found the end zone the last 2 weeks, but overall, he's just not a big part of the the Indianapolis offense there. I just don't think the ceilings are really high enough in tournaments to really, go off and kind of compete with some other guys for maybe cheaper, at the quarterback and wide receiver positions if they do go off.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Let's take a look at the last one here, which is personally my favorite because it gets Sammy Coates in the fold here. So in the optimal, stack, it's Roethlisberger, Brown, and Coates. Throws in Brandon Marshall there, which I also love as the correlation play. I mean, this is a tremendous lineup in my opinion.
I love this one, and I'm with you. This is my favorite of the bunch. This one I think has a higher ceiling than the actual just GPP projection one. You look. I still like the fact that they worked in McKinnon and Gordon into this stack. As you mentioned, the correlation play with Brandon Marshall, who, if you don't know, they had a little bet with Antonio Brown. They were, betting a car for who would have the better numbers come the end of the year. So a little narrative. But I do like Marshall there. And as you mentioned, Coates, who we talked about a little while ago, about him being a value play for this week. I like this one. I think there's a ton of upside there. Rudolph in this same Minnesota thing kind of pops up through all three. We talked about some pivots to Miller. You can use another kicker. As you pointed out, Denny has his article out. So just maybe a slight tweak to this one. I think this one's, one you can definitely toss in.
This is one where you're throwing multiple variations of running backs at it, and I think you like your core of the wide receivers and quarterback combo. So I like this. Were there any other thoughts you came away with from doing this little giddy here?
I mean, I think you'll look. I love a ton of wide receivers this week. I didn't talk much about Jordan Matthews, but I do like Jordan Matthews at 7K, who pops up in the first two articles. He's a solid play in all formats, but I don't know. I mean, I think wide receiver is the one where I'm going to have to switch around my exposure the most, just because I think there's really about 8 to 10 guys that I really feel comfortable using.
Certainly. So I think that's a pretty good look at it. If you haven't yet, go check out the optimizer. It's spitting out tons of fun lineups. You can, lock, you can set exposure, you can do the stacks as we displayed here. So certainly worthy of your time, and I definitely would suggest checking it out. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, check out the article on the site. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.